But when I started doing the research and I was given the information that this was a permanent illness that could strike at any time and there was no cure and I would have it forever, something happened deep within me, which I now recognize was on a soul level. And I was struck by this overwhelming calm that I really can't describe unless it's happened to you. And it was just this deep knowing that this wasn't true. And it was like something within me just went, no, I know that this isn't true. I know I can heal myself from anything. I know I can cure myself from anything. I just have to find it.
Welcome to another episode of the Holistic Sister Circle. Today we have Luna here with us, and Luna is a quantum business alchemist, soul activator, and #1 international best-selling author. She helps high-achieving coaches, leaders, and experts elevate past the income plateau with ease using the power of quantum mechanics. Luna, I am so excited to have you here. I can't wait to get into more about what it is that you do within holistic medicine. But before we get into that, I would love for you just to share with us something that we don't know about, that's something that maybe you haven't told anyone, or even something that may be on your heart right now for me having this conversation with you that you think may be super beneficial as we get into the journey of who you are today.
Your experiences are your own, and you can affect and change your reality. You don't have to accept the fate that somebody else presents to you just because that's what it says in books, because all statistics is a collection of data of other people's experiences, and then that's written off as fact. And so my experience caused me to question everything and validate my knowing, which is that my intuition is my direct connection to my soul, and my soul knows what is best for me and will always keep me on track. And if I listen to my soul, I will always be okay.
Tell me more about, I know you talk a lot about this in your story too, and for those of you all who don't know this, but Luna actually suffered from 2 incurable diseases for nearly 10 years. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how that actually made you feel?
Yeah, so it was interesting because the way it started was I was always very into health and wellness and fitness and self-healing. And I intuitively got this sense of desire to really optimize my wellness. And I ended up in 2012, I'm 29 at this point, I launched this rocket of desire to the universe and set this intention. I intend to really optimize my wellness. And what I didn't realize at the time is that I'm a champion manifester, and I literally speak my reality into being. And often I need to be careful what I wish for, because the universe presents us with our desires in very, very unexpected ways sometimes. So what happened was literally within a matter of weeks of setting this intention, I was on a Zen meditation and mindfulness teacher training retreat, and I got bitten by a tick. And unbeknownst to me, I contracted Lyme disease. Now, back in 2012, Lyme disease was very, very unheard of in the UK. I know it was very well known in the US and Canada, but here in the UK, no one had really heard of it. So I had it undiagnosed for a whole year. And I was going from doctor to doctor, and they were misdiagnosing it. And I was just getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And I wasn't a sick person. And it was a complete mystery. And all of a sudden, I found I was having these weird mood swings. I was completely exhausted and depleted all the time, which was not like me. I was permanently ill, and it was like having flu all the time, and I couldn't shake it. And I had this mysterious bullseye rash on my leg, which turned out to be my saving grace, because not everybody gets that. And that was at the site of the tick bite, which I didn't even know had occurred, because when a tick bites you, it numbs you first. So you don't know you've been bitten. And I didn't know I'd been bitten. And eventually, after a year, I was diagnosed by a Lyme literate dermatologist who recognized the rash and my symptoms and said, if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, it's a duck. You've got Lyme disease. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was very relieved to get a diagnosis, but I was less relieved when he prescribed me a month's worth of antibiotics as a potential remedy. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but there's only about a 72-hour window after getting bitten in which antibiotics are effective. After that, not only are they ineffective, but they cause what's known as a Herxheimer's reaction, which basically exacerbates all the symptoms. So I was rendered bedbound for 6 months with full body inflammation, unable to move. I literally couldn't move my head. I was in the most pain I'd ever been in my life. And it was like the worst ever COVID you could possibly imagine. And to add insult to injury, when I researched Lyme disease, because I didn't know anything about it, words on the internet kept popping up like permanent, incurable, no known cure in science, and all of these really doom and gloom things that didn't really bring me much hope. But here's the kicker. When I found out that I had this lifelong incurable illness that could render me potentially paralyzed, that I would have forever. It attacks every single system of your body. It completely, it affects everybody completely differently, basically. Someone I know lost their eyesight because it went to their brain. Some people, it attacks their entire central nervous system, or it goes to their heart. Some people end up in a wheelchair. It affects everyone differently. But when I started doing the research and I was given the information that this was a permanent illness that could strike at any time and there was no cure and I would have it forever, something happened deep within me, which I now recognize was on a soul level. And I was struck by this overwhelming calm that I really can't describe unless it's happened to you. And it was just this deep knowing that this wasn't true. And it was like something within me just went, no, I know that this isn't true. I know I can heal myself from anything. I know I can cure myself from anything. I just have to find it. So I launched another intention, which was I intend to not only heal myself, but I intend to find a permanent cure for my condition. And I went on this mad rampage, this mission from my sickbed, because there was nothing else for me to do. And I went on a mission of research, making myself an expert in Lyme disease and autoimmune disease, and trying to find any kind of protocols or diet or anything I could to heal myself. And I managed to find a Lyme literate practitioner in the States who produced these herbs that could help with things like Lyme disease. And I imported them into the UK and I started taking them. And within 3 months, I was symptom free, which was awesome. However, that wasn't enough for me because that wasn't a permanent cure. And so I carried on researching. In the meantime, what happened to me was the Lyme manifested for me in my gut, which is where 80% of the immune system resides. And it developed into severe ulcerative colitis. So here was the complication with that. These are two completely opposing illnesses with completely opposing prognoses and diets and protocols. For Lyme disease, the treatment is to keep your immune system boosted in order to abate the symptoms. For colitis, which is an autoimmune disease, the doctors who were working with me put me on immunosuppressants to keep my immune system down, because they were of the belief that it's the immune system attacking itself, so you have to repress it in order to be symptom free. So here I was with these two opposing diseases, both working against each other and me. And nobody had the answers for me, because when I presented this to the doctors, they said, well, we've never seen this before, so we don't know what to do. We don't know how to help you, because they both had completely contrasting diets and medications and protocols, and one counteracted the other. So I was on my own. So thus began my second mission of finding anything that I could eat, finding anything that I could use to treat myself. And I was bedbound for months at a time with these crippling symptoms, with no possibility of any pain relief, with no escape. And I was never on my feet for more than about 3 months at a time during this 10-year period. And it was kind of like putting the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle together to try and navigate my way through and find the answers. But I never gave up, because I knew they were out there. I'd set this very clear manifestation, and I just had to trust. And I nearly died a few times along the way. It was very, very dicey, and it tested me in every way a human being can possibly be tested all at the same time. It tested me physically, because I was pushed to the threshold and beyond of the amount of pain that a human can take. It tested me mentally, my mental strength, because I was put on all sorts of mind-altering steroids that gradually caused me to lose my grip on reality, no matter how hard I fought them, because they even said side effect psychosis on the box. They tested me emotionally, because it was an emotional roller coaster of hope and disappointment, and testing my strength. It tested me spiritually, because it was testing my faith and trust in everything that I believed in, everything that I knew to be true, to hold on to this knowing and faith and trust in myself and my soul, that this was my path and that it was happening to me for a reason, when it was just one sort of obstacle after another. And this was like my hero's journey, the Herculean trials that I was just having to go through for 10 years. And meanwhile, everyone around me was getting on with their lives, and mine was static. Mine existed in this bed, in this room. I was being cared for by my mother. I couldn't work. I couldn't earn money. I was losing a lot of friends. I couldn't hold down a relationship. And life just seemed to stop around me. But my journey was purely internal. So even though my physical life was stationary, I was working harder than I'd ever worked in my entire life, like 24/7. And I was transforming faster than I'd ever transformed in my life every day. And I knew that not only was this my mission to heal myself, but it was my mission to do this for everybody, that I was taking one for the team, that I was doing ancestral clearing, and that this was my mission for humanity, to learn how to empower myself, to empower other people, to teach other people that we all have everything that we need inside of us to heal ourselves and to change our lives. And from my sickbed, I kept setting this intention to find the answers and find the solutions. And eventually, while I was doing all my research and my learning and my studying and my training, I discovered quantum healing. It just fell into my lap. And I started training up in this modality and doing all sorts of courses and qualifications from my sickbed, and learned this incredible modality. And not only eventually did I heal myself, but I manifested the actual solution, the actual cure that I'd been searching for years, in the form of bioresonance. And thanks to that, and a combination of quantum healing and Ayurveda and a number of other protocols on every level of my being, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, energetically, I found the permanent cure for my condition. And I now sit here today 100% disease free, which according to science was impossible. And so the moral of the story here is to never trust what anyone says to you over your own knowing, because nobody knows what is right or best for you better than you. And if I listen to my soul, I will always be okay. And as soon as I start listening to other people, that's when things get foggy. So that is my message to the world, is always trust yourself and your own intuition over anything or anyone else, and you will always be okay.
Luna, oh my gosh, that story literally gave me chills. Like, I can't even imagine. And you know, one of the things that as I was listening to your story and just what you'd gone through for the last 10 years, all I could think about was me too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Me too. Like it obviously wasn't the same type of condition or anything like that, but I was also tested physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I had to literally set my intention on I'm figuring this out, because at this point, no one can help me but me. And I have to trust that I'm empowered enough to know that this decision, like, it's already been written. Like it was already meant for you to figure it out. It was just a matter of you knowing where to pull from you internally to put that together. And I'm grateful that you have, because now you're able to do the work that you do is just on a completely different and deeper level. And one of the things that I heard you say multiple times over and over again was the power of manifestation and setting intentions. Can you talk a little bit more about why that's so important and how that has really guided your decisions throughout the journey, not just with yourself, but also with your clients?
Yeah, I think the bottom line is that intention is everything, because at the quantum level is the thought energy blueprint level. And that is the blueprint from which everything manifests. It's like an architect's blueprint from which he or she builds a structure, right? So in order for us to manifest anything in this 3D hologram, which is what life as we know it is, it all comes from our thoughts, from the mind. We literally think our reality into being. Because at the quantum level, everything is just scalar waves. If you imagine like Christmas tree lights or little fairy lights flashing on and off, that's what everything looks like on a quantum level. Everything is made up of energy, and energy is consciousness, and consciousness is energy, and thought is an attribute of consciousness, and thought is the filter through which our consciousness can manifest itself into form, into 3D matter. So when we set an intention, we're literally drawing up a blueprint in the quantum field from which we can actually create physical matter. You know, when you think about something long enough, eventually it manifests, right? If you keep thinking about a car crash, eventually you pass one on the road. This is a little experiment you can do. If you're out driving, keep thinking about a particular make of car. Keep thinking about like a red Mini Cooper. Just keep thinking it. Just keep thinking red Mini Cooper, red Mini Cooper, red Mini Cooper. And eventually you will see one, because thoughts through the law of attraction attract other thoughts of a similar nature. And eventually it manifests into 3D reality, because it's all about perception anyway. So intention really is everything, because it is the springboard from which manifestation can occur. So that's why it's so important to set an intention, because reality manifests whether we are conscious about what we're thinking about or not. We either manifest consciously, deliberately, or by default. You know, people who are constantly thinking about being sick, they get sick, they manifest it. People who are consciously thinking that they don't have any money, worrying about money, they manifest a perpetuation of that. People who are consciously and consistently thinking about wealth, manifesting wealth, eventually it manifests. It has to. It's the law of vibration. It's the laws that govern our universe. It's quantum physics. It's an exact science. So it's really important for us to be really conscious and aware of what we are thinking about and what we intend for ourselves, because it's going to manifest whether you like it or not. So you may as well do it deliberately, and then you manifest things that you actually want.
And this is such a great teaching, and just thank you for giving us insight here, because what I've noticed is that, and myself included, I manifest in certain areas, but not in all areas. And then wonder why I'm not getting the things or attracting the things that I want in those areas, because I haven't actually done the work to manifest what I'm looking for in that area too. Now, can you talk a little bit about, you talked a lot about, just quantum healing on a quantum level. For those who don't necessarily know exactly what that means, can you share a little bit more about what that is and how does that relate to your work today?
Yeah. So here's the thing about what you just said. You are consciously manifesting in certain areas, and then there are other areas where you don't seem to be manifesting what you want necessarily. The thing about that is that, unbeknownst to us, there are invisible forces at play. There are invisible barriers in our manifestation processes that are working against us without our conscious awareness. There are invisible forces at play that are influencing what we are able to manifest in our experience. And these are the kind of energetic blockages, if you want to give them another name, that I clear in my quantum healing work. So these are things like auric attachments, karmic imprints, soul level blockages, energetic residue from past traumatic experiences, that are stored in the amygdala and the energetic field, to name but a few. There are so many, and we don't even know they're there. And often we bring them through lifetime to lifetime, or we inherit them from our parents and our ancestral line, or we create them ourselves as a result of discordant choices. But they are retained in our soul memory and our energetic blueprint, and they act like magnets, drawing to us without our awareness energy of a similar nature, whether we want it or not. And they also can repel certain things that we want, whether we like it or not. And that is not our fault. We're off the hook for that one. So that's why no matter how much work we do on our mindset, or our, through therapy, managing our emotions, or no matter what we do in the physical, that's the 3D. The first 3 dimensions are the physical, the mental body, and the emotional body. And people think that if they've got all their ducks in a row within the 3D, they're doing everything right in the physical. They've got all their, business strategies in place. They're doing everything right. They can manage their emotions. They've sorted those through in therapy. They've managed their mindset with mindset work. They still can't understand why they're hitting up against glass ceilings with their income, or why they're not attracting the right relationship. There's all these negative or toxic relationship cycles they're manifesting. I was one of those people. I couldn't understand it. I was like, I'm a good person. I put out good energy. I'm good to people. Why am I manifesting these toxic, abusive relationships over and over again, like a loop? It's a karmic loop. That's what it is. Why are people stuck in perpetual negative money cycles where no matter how much they earn, they lose it just as quickly? They can't understand it. These are things like karmic imprints or soul level blockages that are totally out of our awareness or control. And they can't be resolved unless they are cleared energetically, because that's where they reside. They reside in the energetic and or soul blueprint. And with quantum healing, we work on the DNA template level, which is the lowest, most fundamental level you can work on, the thought energy blueprint level. And we clear these energetic blockages permanently. And the reason it's permanent is because these energetic blockages are transmuted through all 15 layers of our multidimensional anatomy, because we are 15-dimensional beings. We're in a 15-dimensional time matrix. We are so much more than just the 3D, which are just the first 3 of 15 dimensions. And these energetic blockages can be transmuted through all 15 layers of our spiritual anatomy. And the healing is permanent. Whereas if you notice with other healing modalities, like Reiki, for example, that only works on the 10th dimensional frequency. So the healing isn't permanent. You have to go back again the next week to be topped up. But with quantum healing, we are literally healing on every possible level. And we are wiping the soul memory clean of these imprints and of these blockages so that we don't manifest them over and over in other lifetimes. So it's the deepest and most potent, powerful clearing and healing that a human being can experience. Because once those influences and those interference frequencies are removed, we can return to our free will state where we have total control and empowerment over our choices and decisions, which previously were being influenced without our awareness. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes, it does. I mean, it's so powerful, for one. And then for two, that actually was the question I was getting ready to ask you too. When we do talk about Reiki and we do talk about muscle testing and all these different things or modalities, why is it that we have to continue to go back and have those conversations and revisit those things? And it makes a lot of sense if we're not actually still getting to the root of that energy from that 15 layers. So that makes perfect sense. Now, for those who are really looking for this type of work, I'm sure, there's so many women on our show that have done Reiki, or they've invested other modalities that maybe haven't worked for them long term, or they feel like they have to continue to repeat the cycle. What's one thing that you can share, some practical steps that they can take right now? And then if they would like to connect with you further on these, what would that process look like?
Sorry, what did you mean? Some practical steps for?
So if they were saying, okay, I'm someone who has done Reiki, some other modalities haven't really quite worked for me in a way where I'm 100% free of those, like it's a permanent change. What are some practical steps that you could provide them from an energy level perspective? So if they were looking to learn more about your work and how what you do can actually help them eliminate this change permanently, what would that process look like?
Well, first of all, I would say if you're looking to permanently heal anything, quantum healing is the way forward, because it gets right to the source of whatever is going on for you that is discordant in your life. Because discordant thought forms, which come from negative experiences, etc., trauma, cause twisted energy patterns in the DNA and in the energetic field. And these twisted energy patterns then grow into actual discordant, solidified thought forms in the body, which become energetic blockages, which sit there being emotionally charged over and over and over, which is what we experience as being triggered. And they don't go anywhere until they are energetically cleared. They have to be electrically disengaged from the body and transmuted. So it doesn't matter what you do around them until they are electrically disengaged. You're going to keep repeating the same old patterns and attracting and manifesting the same things into your experience over and over again. It's like trying to ask an architect to build a new building from the same blueprint. You have to reset the manifestation blueprint to manifest something different. And that's what quantum healing can do. So I would say, if you're interested in learning about quantum healing, You can check out my website, lunastarfeather.com, and you can watch you can sample. I have some free gifts on there where you can actually sample quantum healing sessions on my website. And you can also check out my free training at insideoutupgrade.com, where I explain exactly the science behind how all this stuff can affect us and how it's manifesting in our lives and what you can actually do to resolve it.
I love this. Well, Luna, thank you so much for your work, your dedication, your message, just everything that you've done up until this point, and really being able to take what has gone through you and your own journey and putting it in a package for people where it's simple, where they can connect with you and they can actually remove the blockages that they're facing from an energy level, from a quantum level. So thank you again for your time. We're so grateful to have you on the show. Until next time.
Thank you so much for having me.